This episode of The Unstarving Musician is sponsored by Liner Notes. Want to learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry pros I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician? Sign up for Liner Notes, my curated email newsletter where I share the best insights and knowledge gems from these conversations, some of which have been featured here on the podcast. From marketing to songwriting to touring and sync licensing, you'll get actionable tips delivered straight to your inbox every 2 weeks. Liner Notes Insider, the deep dive edition, will feature exclusive deep dives, detailed case studies, and premium content that goes beyond the podcast interviews. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com/liner notes. It's free to get started, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Welcome to another episode. This is episode 324. I cannot believe it. Today, I'm excited to bring you a conversation with Abe Partridge. He's a repeat offender on the podcast. Has been on a few times. And how many times? I'm going to have to look that up, but I'll put links in the show notes so you can check out his prior appearances if you are interested. I think they're great. So, very quickly, before we get into that, my little YouTube experiment, if you've been following the past few episodes, is on pause for now, or changed for now. I'm not going to include the full interview in video on YouTube moving forward for now. But I will do the intro, which if you're watching, you see me now. In case you want to watch, you can see what I look like or see what I look like today. But we'll see. Stay tuned while I try to develop some semblance of a video studio. And then secondly, I want to tell you about an artist that I discovered via the Apple News feed, and more specifically, the Wall Street Journal. For those of you who subscribe to neither, don't worry, you can look him up. I made sure of that. But there's an artist formerly known as Boy with Uke, as in ukulele, Boy with Uke, all one word, who goes by the name of Charlie Yang, and that's Charlie with an EY. His story is really interesting about the possibilities in the changing music industry. In a nutshell, he circumvented the traditional gatekeepers of the industry and has started an interesting career for himself. He's in it for at least a few years now, so he's not brand new, but he's a young artist in the grand scheme of things. So I encourage you to check him out, mostly to read about his story and how he got where he is. I think the types of things that I share on the podcast and in the Liner Notes newsletter speak to what he's doing in a way. So yeah, check it out. Abe Partridge, he is a remarkable independent artist who's been touring. Wow, let me start that again. Abe Partridge, my guest today, is a remarkable independent artist who's been touring since 2017 and has recently been keeping quite busy. When we spoke, he had just returned from a month-long journey that included recording a new album produced by Steve Shelley of Sonic Youth at Chase Park Transduction in Athens, Georgia. Both of those, the group, the guy, the studio, the town, kind of iconic. But in this episode, we dive into music career transition as Abe shares his experiences touring with Matthew Sweet, love that guy, signing with a booking agent, and navigating the complexities of the music business. He also shares his fascinating work documented the undocumented folk music of serpent-handling churches in Appalachia. You heard me right. And he does that through his Alabama Astronaut podcast. I finally checked it out. I was really impressed. Production value is great. The episode storyline I checked out was quite compelling. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, I encourage you to find it wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Abe offers valuable insights on tour planning, the importance of building relationships in the industry, and how he's created a sustainable career through live performances rather than relying on streaming revenue. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up your music career, Abe's practical wisdom and authentic approach offer something practical for everyone. So I think you're going to like this conversation. I hope you like it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Here is me speaking with Abe Partridge. Looking good, man.
Yeah, I've been outside working, buddy.
You look like an IT guy with that desk.
This is my this is we didn't clean it up enough for you. This is me and my wife's business office.
I like it.
Yeah,
Looks nice.
I've been more than a bit busy, buddy.
Don't you even worry about it. it was just I had some notes here and to see if you were interested in talking about them later. In one of them, because I've written some newsletters. But anyway, there's a little subheading here, learning to say no, and I was like, I wonder if Abe should have said no.
No, man. I've been talking to you for a long time, and I mean, I have been saying no a little bit lately, but no, not to you, buddy. I just when we set up the last things, I had been called into duty for the Air Force.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so I was like super busy. I had to go in for 2 weeks, and then today I thought we were doing Central Time, but that's because I didn't pay attention.
Oh, no worries. And where I'm at now, we don't even move the clocks. I'm in Querétaro, Mexico, which I don't think I was last time we spoke. But yeah, the time change. It's not the first time that's gotten somebody, including me.
Yeah, it's all good, brother.
Yeah. So, did you just get off a short or long string of shows?
Well, I was going for about a month. I was 11 days in the studio, and then the rest of it on the road.
Cool. Well, what's going on in the studio?
Oh, I just made a new record.
Again?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So I just recorded a new record. Yeah, with at Chase Park Transduction in Athens, Georgia, with
Nice.
uh with my friend Steve Shelley from Sonic Youth producing it.
Nice. You know all the celebs, man.
Oh well, I know a couple, but not. And then those couple tell you to take you to everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. When's it coming out?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, it seems like you just did one not that long ago, but maybe it was longer ago than I think. But
Yeah, it was
the
2023. Yeah.
is that I have it written down. The Satan, you're a liars. You're a liars. Is that right?
Oh yeah, the Satan, you're a liars. Yeah, that was just kind of a side project that I put out with my buddy David Childers.
Not what you put out in 2023.
Yeah, like my last Abe Partridge record came out in 2023. The Satan, you're a liars was just like a little side project that me and David Childers put out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd written down also that Lackluster did. You put out a Lackluster album in 2023, which was a delayed thing. But did you do another one in 2023, or do I have it all wrong?
Yeah, I did a Sight Peas record.
Okay.
Sight Peas is my punk band with some of my buddies down here in Mobile. And then I did out my last Abe Partridge record called Love in the Dark. I didn't put out nothing in 2024. And at the first of the year, I put out the Satan You're a Liars, Build This House Together is what it's called. And then probably before the end of the year, I'll have my new Abe Partridge record too.
Okay. Man, I'm all behind and mixed up here. I had the name of the punk band wrong. Is Lackluster the name of the album that you did with Psych Piece?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
How long had it been since you did one of those?
That was our debut record. That was our only record, really.
But you had the band though before, right?
Yeah, yeah, we did. We've had the band going for since about 2018 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we'd talked about it before, and I guess when I saw that, I just had in my head that you guys had recorded before. But that's cool. I did hear a little bit of that, and now I have to go look for Love in the Dark. I may have heard some of it and just didn't realize that's what I was listening to, but I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
How were your shows at the Spirit Room? That looks like kind of a cool place to play.
Oh yeah, I love that place. Yeah, it's great. I played their very first show that they ever had 2 years prior.
No kidding.
That was their 2 year anniversary. Yeah.
Very nice. I something I thought about you months ago because I am a fan of some early work by Matthew Sweet, and I saw that he had a pretty big health incident recently, but before that, I saw that you were doing some shows with him.
Yeah, I did like 50 shows with Matthew Sweet last year.
No kidding. Was he playing
Yeah.
with you? Was he playing in a band or kind of by himself or with a small ensemble or what?
Um, well, the first tour we did, it was his whole band.
Wow.
And then the last little tour we were on when he had a stroke, he was doing like an acoustic trio thing. Yeah.
Did that happen to him when he was when you guys were on tour?
Yeah.
That's sad, man. I hope he's okay. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have, I haven't, maybe haven't looked all the places, but I couldn't really tell how his recovery was going. Do you know anything?
Yeah, he's making a recovery. It's a long process. He has to go through a lot of rehabilitations and things. But the I think the look is good if he can continue to do his you know the hard work of
Yeah.
rehabilitation. Yeah,
Well, cool. If it happens that you talk to him again, please express my well wishes to him.
sure will.
I've been listening to some of that early stuff since it first came out. So I was like, oh, look at
Yeah,
that! You're touring with Matthew Sweet. How cool is that?
yeah, yeah. I love him. Yeah, Matthew's a great guy too, and we really cool hang. You know.
That's good to hear. I'm actually have been playing one of his songs, "Sick of Myself,"
Yeah,
in recent months, and I remember when I first started singing it. For some reason, it was making me very emotional.
yeah,
It's kind of strange, you know. I mean, it's just got kind of all his tunes have this kind of happy tempo to them. Well, a lot of them did anyway. But so yeah, I'd been thinking about him before all that happened, and then I remember him posting a thing that on Instagram that said something like, "And just like that, I'm 60." And then the poor guy had the stroke, I guess. So anyway, yeah, thanks for that. I was really curious, and I'm glad to hear that the nice things that you had to say about him already,
yeah,
and that you got to do so many shows with him. I had no idea. That's really cool.
yeah. Yeah, man, we had a great time. That was what I did with the bulk of my year last year, really. The
Wow.
bulk of my shows were playing with him.
Did you know him before the tour?
We share the same management.
Mm,
And
okay.
so I had never met him before we went on tour because he lives out in Omaha. But
In Nebraska?
yeah, but but we have he's had the same manager since the 80s.
No kidding.
And and then and his name is Russell Carter, and Russell Carter started managing me a few years ago.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I was shifting gears. I was talking to Tony Hera somewhat recently. You know him. Sounds like
yeah, I do. Yeah,
he it was nice. I did one of these catch up calls with him too because he had a very memorable I had a very memorable conversation with him the one time I had spoken with him. And yeah, he your name came up and he was saying some nice things about you, but he did a great imitation of you when he was telling a story about he was contemplating an audio version of one of his books, and then he broke into your voice to say what you told him that stuck with him that he needed to narrate it himself. I laughed. So if you I may find the I may have to find the timestamp in the episode and send it to you so you can just listen to it
yeah.
and get a kick out of it. I was like,
Uh,
that's pretty good.
yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, he really thinks fondly of you for sure. Um, you know something you I don't know if you're still working on it, but you was a looked like a big project for you. Um, the podcast was it called Alabama Astronaut?
Yeah, Alabama Astronaut. Yeah, it came out in 2022. I think it's 9 episodes long.
Only nine. Wow.
Yeah, we put it out, and then we put out another one called Marked for Life, which is a biographical sketch of one of the members of the serpent-handling community. And any day now, we should have our new episode of our new podcast um, called Alabama Astronaut, the Glenn Summerford case. It should be coming out any day now.
That's cool. And I was, am I correct that the Alabama Astronaut podcast also deals with some of the undocumented facets of the serpent handling churches in the Appalachia?
Yeah, yeah, it started as my attempt to document their music. They play a previously undocumented form of American folk music that I have been documenting for. Well, I mean, I'm still actively doing it. I've been doing it for the last 4.5 years.
Did you have some uh, personal, experience with those churches, or was it just something you were extremely fascinated with because of proximity or something else?
Well, I had met one of them whenever I was a preacher myself back in the mid 2000s. So I've been aware of them for quite some time. But then when the pandemic came, I had time, and I had long wanted to go to see what it was like. And then whenever I went, I heard songs that I had never heard before and I couldn't find anywhere. So yeah, it kind of set me on the journey.
What was your impression overall, both of the music and everything else about it?
Oh, it's an amazing form of like rock and roll.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's really, really passionate rock and roll music. I've never let anybody hear it who didn't like it. It's great music, and it's just that most of the times whenever somebody has documented this group, they focus on what's sensational and pictures and videos of people holding serpents, and the music has kind of been in the background.
Yeah,
And my work has not been any of not really revolved around the handling of serpents. I've just been really consumed with trying to document their songs.
that's cool. I have a
Yeah.
friend here in Querétaro. He is from somewhere in Virginia, and he's kind of a hillbilly. He's
Yeah.
from the Appalachia area. He is older than me, probably by about 10 years, and he plays early American music. He called the first time I met him, he called it old time. Listen to me, I'm swinging into my own accent. Old time
Yeah.
music, old time. Anyway, he's a big history buff and super interesting guy. Super nice. We hang out a lot, and I enjoy a lot of people. Actually, he got invited to do a talk about early American folk music at one of the local universities here. He's doing tomorrow, I think. So that's kind of
Oh,
cool.
cool.
Yeah, but I'll have to. I know he'll be pretty fascinated with a lot of this stuff, so I'll have to send it to him, and I'll send you a link to like his Facebook or something. You might get a kick out of him as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So yeah, he's kind of spent a little time educating me about the music that he plays and about the Appalachia and all these things. So it's kind of interesting. But
Yeah, I'm sure that's the kind of guy that likes the podcast.
yeah, I will definitely send it to him. I'm sure he
Yeah.
will. Yeah. I was thinking to just today, there's a lot of interesting things that you told me maybe in our first two conversations, but I remember you told me about your journey through the church and then the military and all that. And I was just kind of curious how today, looking back, how you feel about your theological past, or is it even something that you look at as your past?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is my past. I don't really dwell on those kind of thoughts anymore, but
Mm.
yeah, I look at it as a foundation from which I create art, and I'm thankful for both of my experiences in the church and in the military because it informed. Well, I mean, it was the soil out of which I grew. You know,
Yeah,
it took a long time, but I'm at peace with it now.
yeah, good. I actually watched part of one of your performance videos this morning, and you opened up two things that you just mentioned. You opened up with your early sort of journey through through the churches and marriage and the military, and then leaving and and working on that. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I tell it at almost every show, especially when there's new people there. Just lets people know where you come from, and it gives context for what it is you're saying.
I like the way you did it too. It was almost like abrupt, and then you launched into your
Yeah.
song. It was pretty cool. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I'll have to send that to my friend Dean too, so he can get
Yeah.
get a feel for that as well. So, also wanted to ask if you had thoughts on some things I've been thinking about. You may or may not, so take a pass on any of them that you want. But I think you probably have had to think about probably all of these things at some point. Whether that means you have anything to say about them today is another thing. So you can let me know what you think. But I thought it would be good fodder for listeners and some of the things that I've written about recently in my newsletter. But so maybe it's been a few months already, but I wrote a multi-part piece on booking and tour management with some kind of subtopics that I noted. If any of them jump at you, it's like, yeah, you know what, I have some thoughts about that. I'd love to hear them, but if not, just again take a pass, and I'll give you the next one. But along those lines, I talked about strategic tour planning, tour management, promotional timelines. Thinking about that ahead of time, and online ticket sales, among other things. My experience, by the way, is pretty limited. I've done a couple little like mini tours, so I had to do a lot of research and talk to some people. You just came off of tour. Do you have like
Yeah.
insights to share and new thoughts about it over the time that you've been doing it?
Well, I got with I'm now represented by an agency, and so they really do my booking for me. However, I did my own booking for about 8 years. I guess the number one thing I'd say is is do it. You know, uh, if it's in you to do it, because a lot of the things I've seen out of people that are just starting out, and people that would be having that kind of question,
Hmm.
is they want to pre-plan their routes before they actually commit to going down the route. And what I say is like, just plan your first step and then take it. Don't plan step two, step three, step four, step five before you take step one. Just take it. And then oftentimes you find is when you get to step one and you're actually on step one, then step two becomes more clear. The step two that you would have pre-planned from step zero is probably going to be different once you're at step two. You have a new perspective when you're actually there. So I would say when it comes to touring, just start touring. It's hard to plan a tour when you're not already out and doing it, so just get out and start doing it. Do it where it makes sense, and do it where you can. I mean, most of my first tours I lost money on, but I had a job that enabled me to lose money on touring. And even though I lost money, I built connections and I built friendships, and I built a network that helped help get me to where I wasn't losing money in the future. So starting out touring is almost always a losing proposition, and it's really as far as from a financial basis. But
Right.
if you look at it to me, you have to look at it in terms of my long-term life as an artist. So much of what I do is predicated on relationships that I've built over many years. And those relationships are the important part. So where do you tour? Where you have relationships. How do you get the relationships? By getting out there and doing it. If you're playing at the local barbecue joint, or if you're, touring and playing the small clubs and venues, it's all the same. Yeah, you gotta. Um, if I lost my booking agent today in the American Southeast, I can I can tour as frequently as I'd like, just based on I've been touring now since 2017, and pretty much nonstop, with exception of a couple of years around the pandemic. And I have, I have a lot of connections in a lot of cities, a lot of little towns, house shows, small venues, small listening rooms, coffee shops, small clubs, and I can pick up the phone and book them, you know. And that's just because of years of doing it.
How long have you been with your current, did you say management or agent?
Well, I have a manager, but he doesn't book my shows. I have an agent that books my shows. I've been with him since October of 23.
That's nice. Made life a little easier for you then, in a way.
It took a lot of the workload off. Yeah, I get to focus on other things more now. I get to play more shows further out. Doing a lot of tours with other artists like Matthew Sweet. I did a bunch with Driving and Crying and Dar Williams and Paul Thorne, and this I'm about to do one with Clem Smythe, and those kind of things come via the Great Lake Swimmers. I did one with them. Those kind of things come with that's the kind of thing that the agency can get for you, and get me out of the Southeast, where I primarily was touring for so long.
Cool. I like it. Um, just as sort of like test may not be the right word, but sort of thinking about something I'd written. Now, I did hear one artist had told me about this approach, which was new for him, and it made a lot of sense for me. So I wrote about it, which was like, and he's still, or at the time, he was doing his own tour planning. And he said one thing he learned was to, I guess he did it opposite in the earlier days. And one thing he learned was to go after these kind of anchor shows, like maybe bigger venue, ticketed shows, just things that were bigger that required more lead time, and then developed the rest of his tour around those things, maybe even like house shows and stuff like that. I don't know if that's something that you had done before your agency, or do you see them doing that kind of thing? It almost sounds like it's like they just, because of the work that they do, they are just working on those type of anchor shows from the get go, and then you have an opportunity to plug in some things if you want to. But is that kind of how it works? And do you think that was, in that brief description I just gave you, that was probably decent advice, or something to share?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good advice. Yeah. When I was doing it on my own, if I had a significant offer, like say to open for a major artist, or to play a festival or something like that, or a high paying something, then I would do my best to book around it. So, try to book a couple of hours in any direction around there. And that can often be a challenge if it's an area of that you've never been to.
Sure.
But a lot of times you can connect with other artists that are local. And it goes back to that thing about just building a network and connections and a reputation amongst other artists, amongst other venues. And I did a slew of that stuff for years,
Hmm. Hmm.
for just I'm going to be in Lexington, Kentucky, for this festival or whatever. Now I need to find something in, East Tennessee somewhere. And so a lot of times I would just put um, a post out on Instagram and Facebook, and just say, hey, I'm going to be here, on this date. Anybody have any ideas? And, I've played a lot of backyards and house shows, and other artists say, hey, you want to open for me, you want a song swap, you want to do anything, you know, and a lot. And if when you have that anchor date that's paying good, well, then money becomes less of an issue. It's a lot easier to do something like that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
That's the way I did that. I did stuff like that for years. Yeah, it's good advice.
Good. And I'm hearing you say some other little things too that I had included in there. So it's nice. Thank you for for sharing too. It sort of
Yeah,
lets me know that there was some validity, good validity
I
to most
still
of them.
do that now, even with a booking agent. If my booking agent's got me like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and and that Tuesday and that next Monday, that the previous Tuesday or the following Monday, I have nothing. Or like let's say he books me Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and I have nothing on that Friday. I'll figure out where a good middle ground is, and I'll just take a screenshot of Google Maps and I'll circle an area and I'll just post it on my social media and say I want to play here. And generally people will say, "Oh, that's where my friend lives," or "Oh, I know this great venue there," or something. And I've booked a number of things like that.
That's cool. That's a good idea. Good idea. All right, new topic. Another thing I wrote. It's so funny. These three things I'm telling you about were three among a dozen or so that I thought would be in a couple of newsletters, and each one turned into be its own little mini series. So, but this other sort of mini series was on mental health for among musicians, and just two topics to throw out at you, and anything else you want to add is great if you do have anything to add. So one of them was like setting boundaries that work in music, in the framework of music. And along the same lines, which I was joking about earlier, was like learning to say no.
Yeah, drinking ain't good for you when you do it every single night. And I've been guilty of that, and it always after about 5 or 6 days of that, it'll catch up with me personally. And if you're going to be gone for a long time, it's always good to have somebody with you. That's what I found out. I mean, for me, and maybe other people would rather be alone, but if I'm going to be gone on the road for 2 or 3 weeks, it's better for me to have somebody uh, either playing with me or just running my merch, just somebody to be in the car with me to where uh, you don't get so lonely and lonesome and stuff because yeah, the road's really tough, and I mean, I'm fortunate in that I have folks that help me with my, do all my, that I got management now that helps me with a lot of things that I used to have to do by myself. But, just keeping the mindset that you're fortunate to be able to do what you do. It's easy to get up to Richmond, Virginia on a Tuesday night and there's 10 people there and get all upset about it. Or you can say, wow, I got to come up to Richmond, Virginia on a Tuesday night, and 10 people thought it was worth $20 to come hear me play my songs. And I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to do it. So it's always just keeping the thankfulness and the gratitude mindset, which is easy to preach, but it's harder to live.
Sure.
But I do I do try when I'm doing the best. I'm thankful and grateful for what's going on, and I don't try to. I don't know. We live in a world, where it's like your people act like this is a business. They treat everything like a business, like that's what our the society and our culture we live in. It's all about business and how much did you make today, and who's in who's in your way that you're going to have to step on. But art ain't that, and I don't think of it as a business at all. I think of it as a lifestyle, and this is just the life that I get to live. And as a result, most of the time I'm able to make my mortgage. And that's really cool, and I'm grateful for it. And you know, there's no there's no this is not a competition. You know, it's like in art we can all elevate together. You know, it's not like there's not just a limited amount of of, of songwriter or touring folk singer jobs. You know, there can
Hmm.
be as many as want to be there. You know, Lucinda Williams said something in a podcast that I heard one time. She said that everybody gets exactly what they want out of when talking about artists that play songs and tour and everything. You go exactly where you want to go. This is something that always helped me. And then I heard Lucinda Williams say this in probably like 2017. She said that she said that when she was a young touring artist, she would look around at all the other artists. She looked around and she was like, man, if I ever get to a point where I could reach back and help people, you know, because she knew how bad she needed help at that time.
Oh man.
She said, I would love to do that. And then Lucinda said that I finally got to the position where I could turn around and help somebody. And she said, I turned around and looked back down and she said, I didn't see anybody that wanted it like I did. And she said, like, you get exactly what you want. And so I've always taken that as that I always took that as encouragement, you know, and that, you know, just back to mental health, just, you know, I've taken that bit of wisdom and just, I've always, you know, I've not had any overnight booms or anything like, you know, I'm not going viral on TikTok or anything like that, but I've had a slow, steady increase in what I do. I'm thankful for it. And I just try to keep that kind of mentality about it, you know?
Yeah. I would imagine that having a road companion can be very helpful with the
Mm.
mindset thing too. I can see where, you know, I know that I would be a lot more inclined to let myself go to a dark place quick if I was by myself and things were going tough, you know. And
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You get lonely and then you get free alcohol every night. And see that don't take me to happy places. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't help the voice either, I guess. Yeah. Do you find trying to incorporate the physical health aspect of it on the road from like diet to exercise, do you find that challenging? Is it something you spend a lot of time?
It's extremely difficult. It's something that I've struggled with since I started. I've had peaks and valleys, you know. I've there was a time in about 2023 I was running 4 to 6 miles every day. And when I'd wake up in a hotel or somebody's house or whatever, I'd find a place to run. I'd run, then I'd get in my car and I'd go. And I was feeling really good, you know, in my mind, and I was, you know, I was down in my weight, but it's so incredibly difficult to maintain, and then my knees did not care for doing that every day, and so my knees started acting up on me, which made me slow down.
Sure, that'll do
So,
it.
and then next thing you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas comes around, and you eat like a pig, and then it's just becomes a cycle, and then you try to, you know, and then I'll try to get out of it. So I'll just do this, you know, but it's never easy. It's never easy. I wish it could be easier. I started staying at last year. I stayed at Holiday Inns a lot, and Holiday Inns have like a awards thing where they give you points every night you stay,
Hmm.
and they also all have gyms. So they had like elliptical machines and stationary bikes and things like that that I used a lot. Then you show up at the venue and it's the food is free, but it's all
Fried.
burgers and fried chicken, you know.
Yeah. That's the probably even the tougher part is like food, depending on where you are. And plus, I'm sure, you're on a budget, you got time constraints, you're moving.
Yeah. Yeah, it is difficult. I haven't mastered it. I want to read what you think about it because yeah, if anybody's got the trick on that, let me know. Because I need it. I need to
Sure.
find I need to find some insight on that.
I should dig into it more. I will share. I launched a paid version of the Liner Notes newsletter this year, but there's still like a free version of it that's like just a kind of a separate thing based on the same content. But regardless, I'll send you a copy of it just so you can see what I had written. But one thing I didn't do, which I think would be cool, is to just look for, based on my own experience and just whatever research and talking to others, whatever great ideas I can find, just share them. Because I thought about this sort of physical aspect of it a lot because of a friend that I've done some little mini tours with. He's come to Mexico from the States, um, and he's like a road dog. He's always on the road. And what I think about a lot when I see him is like how hard it can be to get enough sleep,
Yeah.
and everything just starts sliding can slide downhill in a very slow way, but lifelong it's can be very detrimental. And then there's all the other stuff we're talking about. I saw him. We were about to go to a show, and he was staying with me. And I walked in. He's already ready. He's dressed, but it's just I think his schedule was a little wonky, as maybe it always is. And he's fully dressed, ready to go. And I catch him in my kitchen doing push-ups, and I'm like, dude, you should have done that before your shower. And he goes, I got to do it. So I know he's thinking about it, and he eats well. And we were talking about rucksacks, rucking, walking with a weighted
Yeah.
backpack, because he got stuck one day with his guitar case, which is also kind of a suitcase when he travels, and we were walking through the historical district of where I live and looking for this cool taco place that we knew of, which turned out to be closed, but on a Sunday. But he's got this thing, and he was kind of moaning about it just a little bit. But I was telling him, this is rucking is like, have you heard of this? But of course he knew what a rucksack was, and I'm like, yeah, it's all the rage, man. So you're actually getting some good exercise in. So I think it made him feel better. But yeah, that's a great thing. I think I'm going to dig into it, and I'll send you a copy of those
Yeah.
particular
That'd
newsletters.
be awesome.
I will. I hope you like them. If you have any feedback, of course, I'd love it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the last one, and then if there's anything, obviously, that you were hoping we'd talk about that we haven't, I'll open the mic up.
All right.
So I wrote a big piece on protecting your music career. So like, I imagine you have some help with a little bit of help with this these days, but like understanding. So three topics I pulled from it. All of these were kind of broader in range, but I just pulled some things out. But like understanding contracts, copyright and royalties, the latter being a very dense topic, and business structure and taxes.
Oh Lord, yeah. These are all the parts of the thing that I hate.
I
And
understand.
I don't like so I've been real fortunate to have a great manager that helps me with all of that stuff. Of course, we still file our own taxes, so that's always a gigantic pain in the ass.
Pain in the ass, right?
But yeah, yeah, it's amazing to me that things can't be more simple. I mean, in fact, the single my wife, she helps me with my stuff. That's what she does. And in addition to taking care of our home and our three children, and but the single most time of any the single task that she spends more time on per year than any other thing is our taxes, which is a crying shame, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Because it's there's so much of our income that's spent on touring, records and art supplies and and so gas on the road and food on the road and everything that you do in order to make a living. And yeah, copyright. I know nothing about all that. I don't understand it. I write my own songs and I register them with BMI and I sing them and I release them on records and all the other stuff, man. I don't know. My I'm like I said, I'm fortunate to have management that does that.
Do they help out with tracking your royalties as well?
Yeah, I mean, I have a BMI, I believe, has that, and I have
Sure.
my distributor for my last record. They send me checks every so often,
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't I make a living by playing shows and by selling art,
Hmm.
and that's primarily where I'm focused. The streaming things, my streaming numbers aren't significant enough to provide me meaningful living or anything like that, or
Sure.
even a meaningful amount of money. I mean, I'm fortunate to get a couple $100 or something every quarter, but because that's the case, I guess if I had a song that blew up and was getting millions of streams, I'd probably learn a lot about it real fast, buddy. But you know, like to dedicate myself to learning a lot about that when it's pennies. I don't find a need to do that right now.
Yeah, it's so much stuff too, and I'm in a way not so much like I'm happy or relieved, but y- I I think it's nice to hear you speak to the reality of something that I think about a lot because I'm writing about all these different topics, all related to the independent musician. I'm like, this is too much shit for people to have to deal with. So yeah, having a team and relationships when you can is great. And this friend I was telling you about, he has a partner, a business partner that helps him out some, but he does an incredible amount by himself, which I know you've experienced as well. And it's just crazy, when you're trying to make the art and
Yeah. And I know a slew of independent artists. I don't know any of them that make their living via streaming or royalty checks. I even have friends that get placement on like big TV shows and movies and stuff, and it will be a big payment, a one-time big payment, but it's never enough. Like, okay, I'm going to retire now. So like everybody that I know that makes art independently is usually making it through playing shows or my visual artist friends or selling paintings. Like they're doing things that interface them directly with the people that enjoy their art. And like that's the only way, because everything else, like there's a middleman that's taking all the money.
mm,
You know what
hmm
I'm saying?
hmm
If you're a video creator and you put them on YouTube, like 99% of you ain't making any money. If you're making music and you're putting it on Spotify, 99% of us are never going to make any money. Like, but when you take your art to the appreciators of your art, you know, you don't have to have a huge fan base. I mean, think about it. If I sell one $10 CD at my show, how many streams would that be? You know,
a lot.
a lot. Like if I go, so like I went to play a show in Richmond. There were 10 people there about a month ago. I had never been to Richmond, Virginia, but I had like three or four of the people came up and bought $20 records, $25 records. Somebody bought a shirt. So I probably left there with like $200 in merch sales.
Yeah, man, merch is so where it's at for, in this
Yeah.
lane that you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. So like how much would I've had to put into trying to get on some kind of playlist, trying to get on some type of you know, whatever, to get my music streamed on a web on a to make $200. It would have, it would have been insane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to me, I've focused on trying to get directly to my people, you know. And when you do that, you don't have to have a million. Like if you're gonna make a living on Spotify, you better have something go viral and get millions of plays. Or you can just, find a couple of hundred people in the world that are, or maybe a couple of thousand people in the world that are into what you create, and you might be able to wrangle that into a living for yourself,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
exactly. It strikes me that like even the biggest of artists these days are making their money touring. And the other thing is the biggest artists who have a, a significant library of past work uh, are able to make money on streaming because they have a significant library of past work and people like it. And they're also finding ways to sort of repackage and expand that body of work through things like live recordings and remasterings and special editions and
Mhm.
but as the independent artist, yeah, I hope that not too many uh, musicians are out there obsessing on playlists and streaming numbers when there's
Yeah,
some other lower hanging fruit. Yeah.
yeah, but unfortunately, I think there are. I think there
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of people that are always trying to, get something on some playlist. I've never played that game, and that's because I just I really kind of loathe the whole thing and the whole idea behind the whole idea behind there being like three or four major international corporations that become the way that people listen to my music or anybody else's music. That whole thing just rubs me so wrong. That I just I despise it, and so you
Yeah.
know so I just do the but like going out and playing songs to people that are looking at you while you're playing, and you're feeling like this real time connection thing. That's what I love to do.
Yeah.
That's what puts the fire in my heart. And so that's what I focus on.
I think that's smart. And I've decided, and I'm always, like, I try not to be too hell bent on anything and give myself permission to change my mind. But I have been thinking for some time if or when I publish original music again, I won't spend the time to put it on all the streaming platforms. I maybe just do something like Bandcamp or just keep it on my own website. And if I get enough material to create a physical product, then great. But otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't see it's a lot of energy and it's recurring expense and all that stuff. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like yeah, when we I put out stuff under my own name, Abe Partridge, a lot of times with, well, both my previous records were released with labels. So I didn't really have much control over where it goes, but the Sight Peace side project I have, and the Satan You're a Liar side project I have, none of that's ever been on any streaming platform. You can buy them from me, be in a record or a CD, or you can get them on my website via download. The Saint Your Liars is on Bandcamp, and yeah, I'm just not going to play those games with my music. I don't. If and my Abe Partridge stuff, you wouldn't be able to get that either. But that those things are with record labels and all that. So well, and also, I have like I'm very much aware of the fact that I make the kind of stuff that isn't for everybody. So I'm not going to put out a song that's going to be Billboard, material. I know that. And so I exist in a niche, right? So like, why do I need to be on these platforms that cater to the bill, the top stuff? I'm not in that category. You know what I mean?
At the same time, when I listen to your music, I can think of some iconic releases from the past that that actually were adopted en masse. Different times, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, those are probably some of the artists that I look up to. But yeah, it's a different day, right?
Yep. Hey, can you do me a favor and hold that little painting in the windowsill up to the camera? That's yours, right?
Yeah, yeah. I made this one for my wife. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. That's her. That's a self. I mean, that's a portrait of my wife, and she keeps it here on the windowsill.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Cool. I was looking at some of your work again today. It kind of had took on a different context for me looking at it than it had in the past, just because of things that you've been doing and some things I know about you. So it's cool stuff.
yeah.
So I'll be sure to put abepartridge.com on
Thank you,
in the
buddy.
intro of this so people can find out about all the different things you do. Did we forget anything?
Oh no, buddy, you've been very thorough. I like always, Roberto. It's a pleasure to speak with you. And again, please accept my apology for standing you up like I did in the past. It wasn't. I promise you, it wasn't by intention.
Of course not, and don't even think about it. It's good talking with you.
You too, buddy.
As an independent podcaster, your support means the world to me. You could even say I depend on it. With that in mind, here are some things you can do to help support us. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Or shoot me a review by email, robonzo@unstarvingmusician.com, that I can use on the website. Or just share this episode with a friend. This makes a huge impact on our audience growth. You could also visit our crowd sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn of the many other ways of supporting the podcast, including a quick and easy online tip jar. It's like click, tip, done, easy and super appreciated. You'll find many ways of showing your support there, including through our affiliate partners like Bandzoogle, Kit, Email, formerly ConvertKit, DreamHost, and others. The music you're hearing is New Gods Part 2, the instrumental mix by yours truly. You can hear the full version, download it, or buy it at robonzo.com. And if all this was too much to remember or process, just go to the show notes for this episode at unstarvingmusician.com to find links to all the stuff talked about in this episode. You can leave us feedback, questions, comments, complaints at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. Thanks for listening. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.